And then after I've compressed this rim, I'm going to do another collar because I'd still like to get this a little bit more narrow. So collaring, you're cupping your wet hands around, but you're letting up your pressure as you get up higher. This compresses the clay. It's kind of like if you gather fabric and it creates all these wrinkles in the clay. So that's why periodically you have to get in and do a pull to make that clay stronger. And once that clay is more even, it's a whole lot easier, you can see, for me to get that wall shaped more nicely. I use the sponge on the outside because the sponge adds some some water to my surface, and so it allows me to work a little faster. I don't have to stop because my fingers are too dry. I'm going to use my metal rib again and make sure that my wall is sturdy down here. It's been getting some more clay. Now I can push quite a bit on my wall if it's strong and do some actual shaping from the outside. One of the things I'm doing is pushing down here to make sure that that curve is nice and even. Once I get up here, I'm farther away from the wheel head, and so the clay is not, it's attached to itself, but it's not as strongly attached, say, to the wheel. And so I'm going to use my finger on the inside to help support that. Notice also that the rib gives it a really different look on the surface. I think I may do one more pull, but I'm also going to do another cut because you can see some wobble in my rim. The wobble tends, it's pretty normal for there to be some wobble, although of course you want to limit that as much as you can. Pretty normal when you're collaring that some of that shows up. Because it's hard to collar completely evenly since you're gathering that clay, and the gathers happen a little bit unevenly. I'm using my sponge to compress and shape this rim, but I'm also, once I get it how I want it to be shaped, I'm going to get in there with my chamois because the chamois leaves a little bit smoother surface, a little bit stronger surface. The sponge tends to wash away the clay and leave the sand, and the chamois tends to compress the sand back into the clay, so the look is a little different. Remember, you can see the interior, so particularly up here on the top where you can see it, make sure that you're taking care of it and not leaving it sloppy or fingerprints and things like that. You can mess around with shaping. I'm using my fingers and my fingernail to create a particular shape right here. I could get my rib or a knife or other tools onto the interior. Try not to drip a lot of water in there, but I could get them in there to adjust this shape and how it looks right there. Particularly important on a cylinder is to get your bottom undercut. Don't be shy here. Come in with a knife and cut off that extra clay. It's going to save you a lot of time later on, and if you don't trim a foot, it's going to be a whole lot easier to get an even foot, even looking base without the trimming. I'm also, notice how I'm getting my head all the way down here. From here, I see round. From here, looks pretty good. When I get my eyes down to here, I can sometimes see some of the unevennesses that I cannot see while I'm throwing it. As you walk around the classroom and you see other people throwing, you see their pots differently. I see your pots differently than how you see them when you're working. One last compress, oops, on this rim, and then I'll be ready to cut this off with the wire tool and take it off of the pot, or off the wheel head, excuse me.